Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. Some of the best success stories are of entrepreneurs setting out to fix a problem they come across in their own industry. Today's interview is one of those, an Australian restaurateur who found a better way for restaurants, cafes and bars to operate. He's now been awarded a US patent valuing his business at $275 million. Peter Petroulas is the founder and CEO of WizButler. Peter, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you, Sean. Nice to be with you.
So it's a great story. Tell me the thumbnail version of what you discovered in your industry and among restaurants and catering, and what you decided to do about it.
The most difficult problem within a restaurant to manage is its capacity or its inventory, which is really its tables and chairs, and the allocation of bookings. And prior to our WizButler, everybody tried to solve that problem using one pool of tables, and they referred to that as table management. We went a completely different way, and we managed space. And then we placed the tables within that space based on the requirements of the bookings in question, which is a completely different approach to what everyone else had done before. I guess to give an example, a restaurant can never know what combination of booking requests they will get one day to the next day, or what mix they are and what order they will come in. And because you can't guess that or predict that, whatever you do in a table management scenario will be wrong because you're only using one pool of tables.
Okay, I haven't really thought much about this, but you go to a restaurant and they say, a table for two, and they say, I'm sorry, I've got a table for four, or you want a table for four and there's two tables of two and they're a long way away from each other. It's kind of those things that this is solving for.
100%. I guess restaurants are far more complicated businesses to operate from an inventory perspective than airlines or hotels. Yeah. Because with an airline, even if you're a family of six, if there's not 6 seats available next to each other, well then, you just have to take the closest available seats. So they don't require the airline to actually reconfigure its inventory. While with a restaurant, if it's a family of 6, well then there's a requirement to actually construct a table of 6 and then push the other tables away from it so you can actually have your privacy in your own space. So the complexity of inventory is far more difficult in the restaurant.
So is that why sometimes if you go online and you try and book a table somewhere and it's not available, and then you might ring and maybe you'll get in, but it's almost because it's set placement of tables online that you're not, that's bad news to the restaurateur if people can't get in because it's not filling up the tables.
You hit the nail on the head because they start with one predefined floor plan on all these other online booking systems. And while they have a few permutations available within that one floor plan, they're limited. And yes, when the restaurant is only 65% full, the actual booking system thinks it's 100% full.
Yeah. Okay. So big benefits to business. Hopefully that means more placings throughout an evening session.
Well, I guess I really approach this from a customer's perspective, and that is, they want a booking for that restaurant. We want to make it easier for them to get that booking in the restaurant. So therefore, if a restaurant can take 50% more bookings using our system, then apart from the obvious benefit to the restaurateur because he's now got more customers and revenue, we're actually taking care of the customer because we're giving them the allocation they want in the restaurant they want.
Yeah, okay. And so, how far through the process are you? Has it been rolled out to a large number of restaurants at this point?
Well, we were sort of more interested in developing the product over the last couple of years. Yep. So, we've got quite a number of people or restaurants using our system. We haven't actually rolled it out to the marketplace. So while we have quite a number of using it, we know it's 100% robust and 100% ready for scaling.
It's great use of technology affects all of us, right? But there are some sectors which just seem to be less hit by technology. This is an example where technology can benefit a sector which otherwise probably hasn't quite been disrupted like some of the others.
Well, the real reason was that for 20 years, people have been trying to find a way to actually optimize the allocations and to be flexible and give the customers personalization that allows that automation, and they haven't been able to find it. We were the first people to achieve that, and hence why we were awarded our patent.
Stay with me, Peter. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Peter Petroulas, founder and CEO of WizButler. Okay, so you've been awarded a US patent. We haven't really talked much on this podcast about patents. It can be a very difficult and time-consuming process to secure one. How did you do it?
You're right, it is a very difficult and time-consuming process. We actually lodged our first application back in 2017. So it actually took us over 5 years to get it through. So on the steps you need to go through is, first you've got to prove to them it's novel and that no one's ever done it before. Then you've got to prove that it's inventive. And to give the best example of that, if I can say, if you take a group of experts in that area, give them all the literature that's available, if they can workshop and solve that problem, well, then it's not inventive. So one of the tests is that it cannot be foreseen through a workshop improvement by the appropriate technical experts. And then the last thing is it's got to have economic significance, apart from obviously being patentable subject matter. So it's quite an involved step. And as we were going through that process, the patent officers, generally what they do is they do Google searches and searches through academic papers and universities. And if they find a keyword that you've used, they just turn around, print out all the documents, give them to you. So you end up with 100 documents that you need to go through, and then go back to the patent office and prove to them that what they're saying is completely different to what you're doing, even though you're using the same keyword. Then after you give them the reply, they sort of come back and do another search, and then they found another keyword, and you sort of keep going through this process. And that's the lengthy part and the costly part, to actually prove you're novel and you are inventive.
Okay, now I've got to ask you, Peter Petroulas, you previously ran the GPO Grands group of restaurants, bars at One Martin Place in Sydney. For the people in other parts of the country, it's a pretty prestigious location. And then you've jumped to dealing with lawyers nonstop for a patent. How's that experience been?
Well, I guess, I was in the hospitality because the enjoyment of seeing people being happy and making people happy and enjoying customer contact. Then COVID came along and I guess changed that aspect of it. But we'd actually started the process of lodging the patent before COVID, because we'd already seen the inefficiencies within those GPO restaurants, where sort of people were trying to make a booking, and then the regulars obviously had my telephone number, so they'd be calling me, and then I'd be scratching my head saying, I've got this system that's not working, and upsetting my customers because now they've got to make an extra telephone call to me and ask for a table.
So are you out of the restaurant business? Are you like a tech entrepreneur now?
Correct. I think you can only be successful doing one thing at a time. And it's a completely different skill set to run a restaurant than to sort of be focused in technology.
Okay. So what's the plan now? You will roll it out in Australia and the US, is that right?
The initial plan is to roll it out here first, get some traction, which should be straightforward. And then as soon as that's done and sort of the business here is moving along nicely, we'll move overseas to the US.
Okay. How do you make money from it?
Well, it's a subscription model, and what we're talking about is, it's a monthly subscription fee for people to do that is low and affordable for them, as distinct to sort of trying to gouge them for the benefits or the savings that they make.
Yeah. Okay. And then will there be add-ons I'm totally across what you're doing in the use of space. Like, it's a very ingenious way of thinking about it, or from my mind it is at least. Are there other add-ons that WizButler can produce over time, do you think?
Well, we've already produced them. Because we've solved that inventory problem, then that allows you to go to the next step, which is the ordering and the payment and the service within the restaurant, to actually complete that entire journey. So our software has actually gone now beyond just the optimization of the inventory and optimization of the space to a complete autonomous restaurant solution. The other important thing is, because we're actually managing space, we've actually also created the world's first restaurant yield management system. So where traditionally, if you were traveling to, say, New York and you wanted to sit at a restaurant having a nice meal overlooking the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty or whatever you wanted to see, well, you didn't know anybody at that restaurant. How do you get a table that actually had a view rather than a table at the back of the restaurant next to the kitchen door?
Ah.
So now, through our system, because it's a space management system, it actually knows the space. It understands where it places the tables. So it can actually turn around and allow personalization. And the restaurant can turn around, for example, as happens in other industries like hotels, where, if you want a room with a view, it's a different price to a room that's sort of facing the back alley. They can turn around and say, okay, if you want a table with a view, it's an extra 10% or it's an extra $10 per person. Then what's actually happening is you're allowing the person to guarantee their experience at the restaurant, as distinct to sort of being, a hit and miss event.
I love that idea. I love the idea that if I want something that much, I have to pay for it.
And we're not talking about necessarily a large amount of money, but when you look at the turnover within a restaurant, and it could have 2 seatings a night and 2 seatings for dinner, that's already 4 seatings, for that table, it's already an extra $10 a head. It adds up to a lot of money, even though it isn't for the actual individual customer.
Well, Peter, you have taught me a lesson in restaurant management, but also opened my eyes to things that I had never thought about. Space, and then the idea of premium space within restaurants and things like that. Fascinating.
My pleasure. And I think it sort of takes you back to real estate, and what's important is location, location, and location. And it sort of allows that to occur within the restaurant environment.
Peter Petroulas, founder and CEO of WizButler, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
My pleasure. Thank you for letting us share our story.
This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.